Hey everyone, my name is Matt. Welcome to my shop. Today is March 22nd and this is my weekly shop update. So we are still on baby watch. The official due date is tomorrow, so it could still be any day now. And even though it's like the third time we've done this, it's still like this kind of weird thing where like whatever you're doing at any point in time, you're gonna stop whatever you're doing and go have a baby. It's just a funny thing to think about. So on this week's update, we're going to be taking a look at the tool cabinet doors. I got those panels in there and those doors all glued up. I'll tell you a little bit about what the planer upgrade I just did. Let me tell you about something's back. We'll be talking about this indexable insert router bit flattening bit thing and viewer projects, and I think that's about it. So let's jump into it. So I didn't make as much progress on the tool cabinet this week as I was hoping that I would. The panels took a lot of time to finish, just a lot of cure time in there with actually applying the finish to both sides. I didn't apply finish to both sides in one go. I finished one side and then I finished the reverse side of the panels. So that took a little bit longer until things cure. And I wanted to let them sit for a few days before I go doing this, so the finish had some time to harden a little bit so that I didn't end up scratching them or damaging them as I was handling them. So this morning I got the panels glued into their frames and that went pretty smoothly. You can see I have the outer door clamped to the inner door, which is already glued up. That way both doors will have the same geometry, and when they're on their hinges and they close, they'll match and look like one continuous box as opposed to being all goofy from each other. I did a similar process when I glued up the inner doors. They were clamped to the actual case of the cabinet. That way they're the same geometry as the case as well, so everything is the same squareness or unsquareness, whatever it happens to be. I also decided to have them kind of facing each other, so it kind of forms a little of an arch with the branch here. I was going back and forth on which one's going to be right and which one's going to be left. I decided on this. I'm pretty happy that I've made a decision, more than anything. So while I was doing all the finishing on here and waiting for all that to cure and dry, I did a little upgrade on my planer that I've been putting off for a long time. So I've had a spiral cutter head to install in this planer for a while. I think I bought one in November and I've been kind of putting it off for all this time now, but since I had some free time this week, I decided to give that a go, and I pulled this existing straight knife cutter head out of this planer and installed a spiral head in there. I did a video about it. I got it edited already. I just have to do all of these stuff that goes along with posting a video, which I'll probably do either tonight or tomorrow sometime, and that video will be out on Sunday. So that's what I've been up to this week. Let's take a look at some viewer projects. First this week are a pair of coffee tables by Andy. All the boards other than the top are made from reclaimed pallets, and the top is a 2-inch thick piece of oak cut from an old chopping desk or something someone threw away. And you can find a video of the project over on Andy's YouTube channel. Next is a kitchen set by Cindy. The set is made from hard maple and walnut, and Cindy made this set for her sister for Christmas. The walnut came from some walnut trees that they cut down and milled when she was a teenager. She says that since she's almost 60 now, she thinks it's had plenty of time to dry. Next, the guitar by Doug. This one's called Windswept Olive. It has a sapele body with flame maple accents. The top woods are olive, ziricote, walnut, tiger maple, and butternut. The neck is made from maple, and the fingerboards are ziricote with flame maple binding. Last this week is a live edge crotch walnut coffee table by Joe. It features 14 curly purple heart bow ties, 11 on the top and 3 on the bottom. It's finished with Danish oil and wipe-on poly. Joe has a video about the build over on his YouTube channel, and you can also find an article about it over on his website. So about a year ago, I was doing the waterfall tables build, and I was looking to buy a new servicing bit for my router sled. So I had previously been using this like super basic standard 1.5 inch wide straight bit for all my flattening operations. I got several years out of this. I did the farmhouse table with it. I did several small slabs. I did hundreds of cutting boards, and after a few years it had dulled enough, and for a $20 bit, probably not worth sharpening. So I was looking at other options, and a lot of people really seem to like this bit here. The biggest, I guess, downside to this is going to be the cost. When I bought this a year ago, it was $175. It's crept up a little bit to $183 now. So if you're looking at buying this bit, it's pretty much the same as like I could buy a bit or I could buy a router. So I just thought I'd provide you with some thoughts that I have on this thing. This, like everything, is just based off my anecdotal experience with this thing, and hopefully it'll give you some ideas or at least help you along the path of should this be something that I actually want to buy. So this thing's a little dusty because I just used it to surface the epoxy encapsulated slab before I cut into veneer for the tool cabinet. So at least we know it does epoxy pretty well, but there's a picture on the box which is a little bit cleaner looking. So if you're not familiar, this is basically a straight bit with indexable carbide inserts. So as they dull, you can spin them or change your inserts to get fresh cutting surfaces. Now the very first thing that I want to share with you is this fallacy that I kind of fell into when I bought this thing. It's the idea that since there are 4 edges to this insert, in theory this should last 4 times as long as this. So therefore the kind of value proposition is that this should be, 4 times the cost, or you have 4 replacements of these things before you end up replacing this thing. That is not really the case. A bit like this lasts a lot longer than 1 edge of these inserts. And I can take that a step further and tell you a little bit something else as well. The inserts that these things ship with, this is made for, I guess, surfacing a spoil board on a CNC. So it's made for cutting MDF. So the inserts that come with them are MDF grade inserts. They do not last worth anything. So they also sell hardwood inserts, or like high quality, super coated, whatever inserts as well for this bit. So one of the edges on this bit made it through about one side of an ash slab. That was the ash slab that I did for the waterfall tables projects series thing last year. And then the edge just kind of burns up. The replacement inserts, the good ones, they last a lot longer. I'm still on the first edge on those, and I've been cutting a lot. Well, I've cut a few slabs as well as that epoxy thing with this edge on there. So that's just to say that if you do buy this bit, expect that the inserts that come with it are going to need to be replaced. They're not going to last very long, so you'll spend the additional $30 for the 4 inserts to replace these ones at some point. So that's just something to keep in mind. Your actual initial cost is going to be a lot higher than, or $30 more than what you pay for the actual bit. At this price point, it'd be really cool if they actually included these inserts or give you a choice of what inserts you want to have, because yeah, these ones don't last for anything. Now the biggest advantage of these is the same advantage of any insert tooling, is that you can replace the inserts or rotate them as you need to. So one of the great things there is that you can have one edge for roughing passes, get rid of the bulk of your waste, and you can rotate to a fresh edge and do a finishing cut and have a nice sharp edge for that finishing cut, which should give you, a little bit better of a better finish. A little bit better of a better finish, is that even a thing? You can do that as well with your standard bits. You just have a second one that you only use for finishing passes. That would work as well, but this might be a little more convenient. Now as far as surface finish goes, from this bit versus this one, I did notice a huge difference in surface quality. The biggest thing I'm looking for there is going to be the amount of tear out, and this gave me the same cut quality as a sharp one of these would. Pretty much no tear out or very minimal tear out at the most. Now one thing you're going to have if you're using a router sled is going to be some track marks. That's just from any kind of deviation in the bit or in the router setup that you're using. I don't think you're going to notice a huge difference there unless you're using a super or a more rigid setup than a handheld router sled. If you're using this in a CNC or some similar setup, like a manual CNC, or the bit or the spindle or the router is held rigidly and doesn't have an opportunity to tip around as you're feeding it, that's going to give you the best cuts. But for me, I use this as a roughing operation. I don't expect a finish ready cut off of this tool. Like I don't expect a finish ready cut out of my planer, out of my jointer. Those are roughing tools. I'm going to finish prep the surface anyway, and these are just a roughing operation. At least that's the way that I use my milling machines. So hopefully that helps with your decision-making process. I think if you're just doing like 1 or 2 things a year, a standard straight bit for $20, $30 is probably going to be your best bet. If you're doing a lot of surfacing or you have an actual machine dedicated for surfacing, an insert type bit would be probably beneficial to you. You might even look at the wider ones. They sell a 3-inch diameter cutter as well, so that could save you some time if you're doing a lot of surfacing on an actual machine. So, hope that helps. And lastly, if you didn't see it already, April did post the third video in her bandsaw build series. That's the last one that I'm a part of. We took care of building the entire saw head and making a test cut while I was there right before I left. I will leave you a link to that as well down in the description, as well as links to everything else relevant to today's update. So that's all I have for this week. Thank you as always for watching. I greatly appreciate it. If you have any questions or comments about anything I talked about today or anything here in my shop, please feel free to leave me a comment. As always, I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have. And until next time, happy woodworking.